Hi guys, welcome back to Coffee with Megan, where I chat to people in the fashion industry who are using their platform for good. Today I'm talking to Daniel Silverstein. Daniel is the founder and designer of Zero Waste Daniel, and it is a really amazing, unique fashion brand that upcycles scrap materials from which other brands would have just thrown away and end up in landfills. And he has a really amazing story as to how he came to be in that line and making his brand. And he has some amazing advice on creating your own brand and finding that confidence. And I really love a part in our conversation where he talks about sustainability being a practice, a daily practice, instead of a strict, regimented way. It's about trying your best each day to be as sustainable as possible and leaving as zero waste as possible. And he gives some amazing tips as to how to do that. And he just has a really amazing way of putting across his message in such a happy and non-judgmental way. And I really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope you do too. Thanks. Hi, Daniel. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I am currently in London, as we are all in different parts of the world. Where am I speaking to you right now?
I am at my store studio in Brooklyn, New York.
Amazing, amazing. And for anyone who doesn't know you and doesn't know Zero Waste Daniel, could you explain a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your brand?
Yeah. I'm a New York-based clothing designer and zero waste pioneer, I guess. And I started in 2010 a clothing brand, so over a decade ago, that was dedicated to the idea of using every last scrap of fabric and closing the loop in the production system of fashion. I saw firsthand as a student, as an intern, and as a young professional how much waste we were creating in the production process. And then I became acutely aware of how that was actually part of a global issue of waste in other countries, depending on production happening around the world. So after a couple of years of seeing that and being a part of that, I went off on my own, started my own brand. And for the last 10 years, I've been working on some form of a zero waste collection. In 2015, I started Zero Waste Daniel, which is a line of genderless basics, sweatshirts, t-shirts, hoodies, and joggers that are actually made out of the scraps of other designers' production. And each piece is about a pound of fabric that was intended for landfill or destined to end up in a landfill. And so my work is a consumer-focused solution to waste in the fashion industry.
That's amazing. And just to go back, as you say, you started in the fashion industry before, not in the sustainable space. And what was it that was like the aha moment where you were like, this isn't right and I don't want to be in the commercial space of fashion anymore, and you wanted to go out and do something on your own? What was the point that really left an impact?
The point for me was a little bit of education, a couple of places along the way, where first I realized in pattern making class as a student at university that there was a lot of waste in between the different pattern pieces that we were laying out. And the first place that I realized that was the fabric that we pay for, the goods, when we cut out those extra pieces, then we're actually wasting money when we throw them away. So that was like the first little piece of waste. The second time I realized this was in a cost meeting. When I was a young professional, I worked at Victoria's Secret in the design office, and we were costing out different items that were in the catalog. And that waste that, we were throwing away as designers was being amplified times 1,000 units, 2,000 units, 5,000 units, 100,000 units. And you realize that every time you cut that little triangle out between those two pattern pieces, you stack that up times every single sweater, and it equals sometimes thousands of pounds of waste. And so this was becoming a money and a space issue. And what I sort of backed myself into realizing was that that was also an issue of resources, because if the wool or nylon or spandex or cotton is being grown or milled and then created and thrown out, we've now wasted money, we're wasting space storing it, and we're wasting resources that it takes to make something. And those three things combined really led me to feeling like I didn't want to be a part of that system.
Yeah, I completely understand. And why is it, just going back to patterns, why haven't they found better ways of cutting patterns? Is it just sheer laziness? Like, is that what it comes down to?
Some of it's really interesting. If you look at historical garments, there are a lot of zero waste garments that have been in fashion over history. There's one kind of thing that's still really popular in fashion. It's called knitwear. And sweaters and things that are what's called fully fashioned are actually knitted into the shapes of pattern pieces and are in essence totally zero waste, which is really cool. There's also traditional costumes from around the world like kimonos that are actually made out of rectangles of fabric and have no waste in them. So when we look at different trends and things that have happened around the world and throughout time, we know we actually have solutions. So what it comes down to is a shift in power that happened when we industrialized fashion and started commercializing it, and it became accelerated by the fast fashion movement. The reason that there's so much waste is because the consumers are either unaware or prefer the products with it and keep buying it. So the industry keeps supplying it. So it sort of goes hand in hand.
Yeah. That will take me on to some questions later, but just going back to zero waste, Daniel, exactly. What does zero waste actually mean to you and your brand? Like, what does that mean?
So for me and my brand, it means a lot of things. And the number one thing it means is that this is a philosophy that I carry through everything I do. It's not just about getting you a product that's made from scraps and sort of that phenomenon of greenwashing. I really want to consider waste in every way. So we run a zero waste studio. All of the fabrics that come in stay in and don't leave until they're part of finished products. So behind me, you can see jars of tons of different kinds of scraps that I've been collecting for different projects. And in lots of different places, I store extra scraps because those are my raw materials. And rather than saying, oh, I'm sick of carrying this stuff from one project to the next, we keep it and we reuse it. We also encourage zero waste behavior in the studio, from bringing reusables, recycling, composting, and being responsible about other materials. And when we do things like buy furniture for the studio or redecorate, we always look for secondhand or things that are recyclable and reusable. We also pack and ship without any excess materials.
Yeah, that's so important, because there's been some recent times where I ordered decorations which were plastic free for a party, and all the packaging came in plastic. And it was just like, how do these two go together? So I think that part's really important about the plastic free. And there's less packaging.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion around that too, because there are things like bioplastics and compostable, but it still encourages the behavior of disposability and single use. And what we're trying to do is get down to the bare essentials of what you really need. You just need an envelope to put it in, something that's recyclable, and your garment, your shirt, your piece. And we like to put in a handwritten note, which is something that you can recycle or keep.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's just about changing, like you say, the mentality of it being disposable and showing there's other ways.
Right.
And as you say, all the materials you use as fabrics, scraps. And it would be really interesting to know, like, how do you source that? And how did you start sourcing it when you first started your company? And has it changed over the years?
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. I started sourcing it. I had this idea for the scrap line while I was sort of trying to phase myself out of making gowns. I had been doing cocktail and evening attire for about 5 years, and I really wanted to change my business. I didn't want to wholesale anymore. I felt really frustrated working with the traditional wholesale retail model, and I was eager to start a direct-to-consumer product. And I had been thinking about that, but subconsciously, I think I just wanted to go shopping, and I didn't really have enough money And I had always been buying like really nice fabrics and working with 100% of them. So I would have like no waste from my products, but I was buying new materials. And when I was kind of closing down my studio and thinking that I was going to reinvent myself or my life or do something else, and I was sort of unsure, I took my afternoon and made myself a couple of shirts. And when I made this one shirt, I just took a picture of it, posted it on Instagram, and all of a sudden it got like the most likes and comments and engagement of anything I had ever done. And I was like, oh, I think like this is what I should be doing. This is more my speed. And it was just made out of scraps that I had been collecting for the last 5 years of making other beautiful things for other people. And when I kind of took the energy and time and I put them towards something that I would really want to wear, it really changed the reaction to it.
When you put yourself in it, that it's like,
right.
Then it becomes like this passion project and people see that, I think.
So I didn't have very many scraps, but I had some scraps. So I used all of my scraps pretty much immediately and needed to start finding other scrap materials. I used like 2 bags of fabric that I had lying around, and I thought that was a lot then, but now I'm used to a different scale. And after a little while, I had blown through those and I had orders for more shirts. I did like a pop-up flea market in a cool music venue in the city, and people were really into the scrappy shirt. So I was like, oh, sorry, I'm out, but I can mail you one. And then I was like, I need to find scraps. What am I going to do? So I was working in a co-working space at the time, and it was for a bunch of different designers. And I just started going to my neighbors and asking if they had scraps. And I was like, I know they do. Like, obviously they have scraps. I had scraps. We had scraps at Victoria's Secret. Everyone has scraps. But I asked politely, and I got more than I could take on. I was like, oh, cool, I'm rolling in it now. But then I kind of cleared through those and I was like, I need more scraps. So I went to my friend who was a pattern maker, and she said, there's a factory like 10 blocks from here. She gave me the address. She works with the guy all the time. And I went into the factory and I was like, I'm this guy. This is what I'm doing. I'm a designer. I really want to be collecting scraps. Could I take them from you? And he was like, I don't know how I feel about that. And I was like, come on, like, you're throwing them out anyway. He was like, maybe I'll collect a bag for you. Call me back. And then I was like, that's bullski. Like, that's just not cool. He's throwing this stuff out. I know this guy is throwing this stuff out. So I walked out the building and I walked back through the like service entrance, and I went straight into the cutting room, and I asked the guys what they were doing with all the scraps, and they led me to the dumpster. And the dumpster was totally clean. It was like the cleanest dumpster I'd ever seen in my entire life, because all they use it for was fabric scraps. And he was like, bring a truck, take whatever you can carry. I won't tell anyone you were here. And I went back, I brought a car, and I took like 18 bags of scraps. And they were these huge, big, usable pieces. And I started like really producing stuff. I brought an intern with me at the time who was helping me with my company. And she took all these photos of me like stealing scraps.
Quite an awesome memory of like how it started.
Yeah. Since then, there's a company that started in New York City called FabScrap, and they've started actually like a real data collection nonprofit that's helping the fashion industry recycle. They're collecting from over 400 local designers. So I'm able to get a lot of scrap material from them, but they're only collecting design room waste and production leftovers. So there's still a huge amount of that sort of unspoken factory waste that's out there and around. And I have collected bags from time to time.
That's awesome. It's so cool you found a way to use those, just like going in the trash, going in landfills, and you're making something beautiful out of it. And it actually leads me on to something, because all your pieces are handmade, correct, in Brooklyn?
They are. I mean, we use machinery, but there are hand-pieced elements to every single garment.
And I read in an interview where you said, you talked about finding almost like a new metric for success, as in you it's not all about being huge scale. And I guess it's a hard thing when your company, you're getting more and more orders, but you also want to keep it true to your brand. And I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about what that metric of success is to you.
Yeah. I had a couple of points, and I think most people, especially creatives or anyone who's in like the entertainment industry or entrepreneurs, can really relate to this, where you get faced with defining success. And I think we grew up in a world, in a time where money and luxury really were the epitome of success. And when I really got faced with what success is and explained in fashion by people who I really respected what success is, it started sculpting a different picture for me of what success might look like. We all need money, and we all want to have nice things, and I love that. I like to make nice things, and my clothes can be expensive, so I can relate to that. But I also, I think I want to be a part of something that's bigger than just having a lot of stuff. And I heard a quote when I was a very young aspiring designer from a great illustrator named Steven Stippleman. He was one of the original Women's Wear Daily illustrators for fashion. And he taught an illustration class that I was in. And he said, good designers work. They see their designs walking around the street and in magazines and store windows. Great designers change the way people dress. And I think that always stuck with me, because I aspired to be a great designer, but greatness didn't necessarily mean having the most money or the biggest fashion shows. It meant really changing the way people dress. And as my company and brand grow, something that's rampant in the fashion industry is copycats. There are people all over the place who steal each other's designs and sell knockoffs and fakes, and that's a huge part of this industry. And I knew that if I wanted to create an original lane for myself, a big part of that was going to have to be openly sharing what I was doing and how I was doing it, to create a tidal wave of designers that would help me change the way people dress.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I think you are so unique with your designs, and they're so cool. And I read something recently on your Instagram. It was about how 2020 is just like shaking everything up, and it's like completely revealing what needs to be changed, like the systematic things that need to be changed, and people are wanting it now. But do you feel we will see it within the fashion industry? And what's your feelings for that? What do you hope it to look like?
The number one thing that I hope it to look like is a little harder to play the game. We look at so many industries like the movies and how much talent and skill and perseverance it takes to get places like the Oscars and the Golden Globes and the Emmy Awards. And you look at athletics and the World Cup and the Olympics and the different kinds of training and skill and precision that go into being successful in those industries, and the way that cheating is policed. Those things, it really means something to people to be the best in those industries. And I want fashion to demand more from the designers that we idolize, and the people who we let make our goods, and the people who we give our praise and attention to. I think we should demand a higher level of craftsmanship, more understanding of supply chain economics and ecological impact. And we should be more willing to give designers the privilege and respect of leading us towards what's good for us, rather than buyers and influencers and trendsetters. We need those people to amplify the right voices, not the voices with the most money.
Yeah, that was going to take me on to another question, where is it the consumer's responsibility, or do you think it's the designer's responsibility to make it more of a sustainable place? But I guess they go hand in hand, but I just wondered your thoughts.
Yeah, I think everything comes back to education.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I experienced growing up on the East Coast in the US was I was in the class that had home economics cut from our program. And so my school in my year, we didn't learn how to sew. The students 1 year older than us did, my sister's grade did, but we didn't learn that. And so as we grow up, we don't know as much about fabrics. We don't know about the labor that it takes to make things, and we're desensitized because we don't understand. So whether you pursue a professional career in it or you become a consumer of a good, not understanding the value behind it and how it comes to be in your life is dangerous.
Yeah, no, that's so true. It is about education, and I'm hoping now, because, well, through social media, people are wanting and asking and demanding that education from the brands, or the transparency. And I feel with your brand, you use Instagram in an amazing way. You're like very open and transparent on it. And do you think that's been a part to aid your success with Zero Waste, Daniel?
I think transparency and honesty are always a path to success. They're not the quickest path to success, but they're one that provides longevity. We're living through the ultimate year of the takedown, and we've experienced takedown culture growing over the last 5-10 years. And we've seen giant Goliath companies and people being taken down by the honesty and transparency that social media provides. And I think by living authentically and going out into the world with a real intention and being clear about what it is every day, you don't make yourself vulnerable to takedown culture because you're not doing anything to hide.
Yeah, that's a really valid point. That's very true. Just being honest, and then you shouldn't be scared of anything then if it's just what's happening in your company. And
that's why I put my store in my studio in the same place, because I thought that people would challenge that it's really zero waste. And I thought if you wanted to be a challenger, that would be okay, but you should be able to come and see for yourself that we're just doing what we say we're doing.
That's amazing. Yeah, very true. And you have, I mean, it's always scary to take the path of doing something like this on your own. And I wondered what advice you would give, or lessons you've learned, or any tips to aspiring entrepreneurs and how to find that confidence.
Yeah, oh, that's such a good question. There are so many different things that I wish I had known, but one of the things that I try and remind myself all the time is that if you want to have a whole career doing something, that you need to kind of get in the slow lane and understand that this is a marathon, and look at the people whose careers you really admire and ask yourself if you would really want to be them where they are today, or if you just wanted to be them on their best day. And, you know, we all love the idea of being at the top, but it's very hard to get there, lonely to stay there. And once you're there, where do you go? And so I think really thinking about where you see yourself in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years is an important part of establishing what you're doing today. Because, you know, life is what happens while you're making other plans. And if you don't know where you're going, then you're never going to get there. You have to enjoy the ride, though. That's kind of what I've been trying to remind myself. I've gotten to do a lot of really fun and crazy things, but I haven't done everything I want to do yet. So why not try and just do today?
I can really relate to that. I'm definitely working as a model in the fashion industry and living in New York. It feels like a race, but now I've come to terms with it's not all about being at the top or racing towards it. It's about the journey and what you learn along the way, and what you can give to other people, and just to enjoy each day, like you say. Is there, so you live also a zero waste lifestyle at home, really true to what you speak of and how you run your brand. And what does that look like? What does that mean, a zero waste lifestyle at home? Is there any tips you could give?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the number one thing is buying things with intention. So, you know, there's always waste. There's waste everywhere. Even someone who's living a zero waste lifestyle can't be completely zero waste unless you're living completely off the grid and farming all of your own food. And I am not doing that right now. But what I am doing is shopping with intention. So I'm definitely not buying anything that's coming in single-use disposable packaging. And the things that I am buying that are coming in single-use disposable packaging, I'm reusing or saving those packaging materials. With my brand specifically, we did a hard-to-recycle plastics collaboration with a local recycling facility and made like an upcycled vinyl that we then made bags out of. Okay. So we're really able to say, like, even the things that were hard to throw out, we're reusing, or hard to recycle are being reused. And then with shopping with intention, you know, there's always things that you want, right? You have a craving or you need a new whatever, and you can choose to buy new fast fashion, thrifted clothes, you can buy antiques, you could buy designer, you can always buy something, but you have the choice. So I typically choose to shop local or shop secondhand. I avoid shopping online so that I don't need extra packaging and fossil fuels to get things to me. And when I do shop online, I'm shopping from companies that are in line with my mission. And then in terms of just like daily living, you know, it's things like having a reusable coffee cup, which I know you're a fan of, and other things like bringing a napkin with you or bringing a small fork with you. And when you're out, saving your food waste and taking it home and putting it in the compost, just little tips and tricks like that that allow you to avoid so much single-use plastic in your life.
Yeah. And did that passion come like for living at home like that? Was that more, did it lead on from your fashion passion kind of thing? Did it become part of your life because of your Zero Waste Daniel brand?
I think a little bit of it was before fashion at all. Okay. I just grew up in a recycling house and, you know, like mindful consumption, yeah. But then getting into sustainable fashion and living or designing zero waste really opened my eyes to the potentials of living zero waste.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome how people find that journey. And is there also, I really love the one thing I want to talk about is you made a trash zombie apocalypse survival kit, which I thought was really cool. And I just want you to say what it was, because I think it's a really it suddenly made me think I could carry that around everywhere and use it in every situation. So just explain.
Exactly. So a couple of seasons ago, I did a fashion show, and the whole concept of it, my fashion show is not like a runway show. I do like a stand-up comedy show and show like a line of clothes in like a funny way. And, you know, I think everyone thinks about sustainability as a really heavy topic, but I try and reach people through their funny bone because it's so much more palatable. So I do this show every season called Sustainable Fashion is Hilarious. And for that season, I did a collaboration with the New York City Department of Sanitation. And in meeting with them and talking to them and trying to understand what the problem was that they were facing and how to work with the city better, I don't know who said the phrase or where it came from, but someone somehow said trash zombie. Like we're all just trash zombies and we don't even realize that we're making trash, and we don't even realize we're buying trash, and we don't even realize we're throwing it out, and this stuff is all clear plastic so you can literally see through it. You don't even see the problem in front of you. And I was like, whoa, that's so crazy. Like, what if we were fighting this apocalypse and like fighting the trash zombies? So you would need some sort of like survival kit. And the trash zombie apocalypse survival kit is a 16-ounce mason jar with an emergency tote bag inside, an emergency napkin, which you can also use as a hanky, and a little cocktail fork. And that basically helps you in any situation avoid a disposable. So if you're out and you're shopping, you have a shopping bag. If you're out and you have compost, you can put it in the jar. If you're out and you're thirsty, you can use the jar to take a drink. If you need to eat something, if you want to like blow your nose or wipe your hands, you've got everything you need.
That's amazing. And don't you actually sell that little kit on your Zero Waste Daniel? Yeah.
So we sell the little kit But what I also like about the kit is that you can DIY. So if you're in a position where you're like, I don't want to spend that money, or I think I have all of these things, or, you know, you're just trying out zero waste and you're not ready to make the investment in like new cute gear, it's not exclusionary. Like anyone can DIY and recreate this and live this way at home.
I like that. I think it's really awesome. And is there any brands that you could speak of that you admire how they do things? It doesn't have to be completely perfect, but I don't know if there's any brands that you look
like
at.
Clothing or just in general?
Yeah, any sustainable company.
Yeah. Oh my God, there's so many. I think the one that is really inspiring right now, I just tried their products and I'm loving them, is Blue Land. They're if you know them, cleaning product company.
I have them at home too.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The refill idea and the fact that you're able to, you know, just get these pelletized ingredients and then reuse them. It's a brilliant business model. It's great product. It's really cleaning my house. And I think it's the kind of thing where it feels so familiar and feels so easy to use. And it's like a simple switch for people where you're going to be spending money on cleaning products anyway. And these really aren't more expensive. And it really solves the problem. So I love that.
I love them too. And I think they look good, which is also something that's nice, because sometimes with these cleaning brands that are cleaner and better, they don't always look so good, but they look really beautiful, the packaging and everything. So
exactly.
Nice in the home. Anything else I wanted to ask you?
These are amazing questions.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about? Is there anything, just a piece of advice that you may have learned during lockdown or you want to leave people with?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone interested in zero waste or the concept of zero waste, I really encourage them to remember that it's like a practice. It's not like a religion, and it's something that you don't have to be perfect at to participate in. And it's something that you get to try again every day if you want to. So if you're having a bad day and you feel like you're being really wasteful, it doesn't mean that tomorrow is ruined. And if you have an amazing day, it doesn't mean tomorrow will be perfect. It's just an intention for how to live your life. And when you live your life intentionally, you feel so fulfilled when you do things towards your intentions.
That's really beautiful. I love the way of thinking it as more of a practice than a strict way of life, that then you make yourself feel bad if you can't always be in line with that. And thank you. It was so amazing to talk to you. And could you just, I will put the link, but just tell everyone what your website is and what your Instagram is and where to find you.
Yeah, I'm at Zero Waste Daniel on Instagram and now on TikTok. And I am at zerowastedaniel.com all the time, 24/7. We do custom mosaics, genderless basics, and we're always putting out something new. And I'll have a new Sustainable Fashion is Hilarious in September. So I hope to see you there.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, I'd love to see it. I can't wait. Thank you so much. And let's keep in touch. Bye.
Yeah, we will. Thank you so much.